Hey guys, if you've already watched part one, that means you're here and you're still with us. That means you're smarter than most people. As we continue to go through this data on the 2020 and the 2024 election, specifically the 2024 election, you've heard about the Russian tail, you've heard about the anomalies in the voting, and we'll watch this part where all of a sudden, for some reason, votes for Trump start showing up at 50%. 50% of the vote is in, and all of a sudden everything starts shooting up. Watch it. It's crazy. And it'll wake you up to the fact that something happened. All right, we're back. And now let's continue the possible nightmare. Go ahead.
Potential nightmare.
Potential nightmare. All right, let's talk a little bit about data analysis. So we started with Clark County, Nevada, right?
Right.
Now we're just going to talk about mostly Pennsylvania here. I do have another PowerPoint for Clark County. That one's probably just going to be absolutely. You're going to need some psychology after that one, like a psychiatrist. So we're going to keep it simple with Pennsylvania.
So utilizing statistical analysis of vote count and turnout to the amount of votes a candidate gets.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're going to look at vote count, which is how many votes are cast per machine or county or precinct.
Total votes, both sides.
Sure.
Go ahead.
And then we're going to look at turnout, which is how many people are registered to vote, how many people showed up to vote. And we're going to look at them by precinct because Pennsylvania, each of the counties.
Is it weird?
You'll see. It's by precinct. So it's normal. Voting by precinct is normal. Okay.
All right.
Generally speaking, it's done throughout the U.S.
Are the registered and the vote?
Yeah. So you're going to compare.
All right.
And so each county has X amount of precincts. Some of them have more, some of them have less.
Got it.
So the way we do this analysis is we get the data for the county. Get the data for the county. And then we break it down by precinct. And then we're going to graph it and we'll show.
Okay.
So the first one we're going to do is, this is a vote count analysis. So briefly, let me explain what you're looking at here.
This was the graph that made my brain hurt.
Well, on the top, this one's hopefully going to be super simple because this is going to be our baseline.
Okay.
This is going to be, if you take nothing else from this, this is what we are arguing is more normal. And so the way you read this, we're going to look at the top graph. This is the 24 election. Okay. This is for mail-in voting. This is by precinct. And this is San Mateo County, California. And
Hometown.
Near
home, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm a Bay Area boy.
All right. So the way you read this is on the bottom axis, the x-axis. It starts at 0 and goes to the right. These are votes cast per precinct. Okay. So you got some precincts where you only have like less than 100 votes.
Right.
Those are the beginning. And then as you grow in the amount of votes that were cast per precinct, we see it's a straight line for both candidates. We don't see there's a lot of variance, but it averages out to more of a straight line.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so you've got some precincts where there's 2,500 plus voters. You've got some precincts that are, only 5, 10, 15, 20. And so this is normal. We're not seeing anything here that is of concern.
Mail-in precincts about the same, just kind of normal. Like some of the smaller counties have a lot more. I get it. Okay.
Yep. And so people will argue, hey, you're going to see certain things at smaller sizes. That's not generally correct. When you look at statistics, you're going to argue what is an appropriate sampling size? Because we're using precincts, after only a couple hundred votes per precinct, it becomes a consistent pattern.
Right.
You'll see it kind of at the beginning where you see it's a little thicker, sub 100 votes, right?
Yep.
But then it immediately becomes more of just a straight line. Mm-hmm. And because we're not just looking at like one precinct with 100 votes, we're looking at hundreds of precincts with 100 votes.
Got it.
See, so it averages out. So the only other point I'm going to make here is people will say, does this change based on a candidate being more popular or less popular? No. What'll happen is you see, in this case, Harris is blue, Trump is red. All you'll see is that it'll shift up and down the graph. Mm-hmm. So you see, in this case, mail-in, Harris is sitting somewhere around 80, a little less than 80%. So let's say it flips and Trump is really popular in mail-in. He's just going to sit on the 80% line. His shape of votes of the precincts aren't going to change.
Right.
It doesn't change as more people cast their votes.
Got it.
We understand that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kinda.
Right. Kinda? Any questions here?
I mean, yeah.
I wouldn't want to be tested on it, but yeah, I kind of understand it.
But as long as we
We're
understand.
going to be tested, are we?
Yeah. You're going to have a lot of questions, I'm
Does
sure.
make you panic?
Yeah.
But
so you're basically just showing so if you look at the bottom of the graph, 0 to 200, that's how many people voted in that precinct. And that polling place is basically what we're saying. And then it goes to, then there's other polling places that had 1,500 votes and you can see where they voted.
Yeah, how much of the votes they got.
Okay, go ahead.
All you're looking at is how many votes did each candidate get per precinct. And so you're like at 2,500, Harris was getting 80% of the votes that were cast in that precinct. So
Got it.
there you go.
All right, go ahead.
The reason why we're going to say is this is the baseline. This is normal.
Mhm.
If we can expect that. So if this is the baseline and we don't see any changes to the shape of the votes as more people voted across these precincts, we're going to look at some other places. I think we have one more baseline. Oh yes. And this is same location, same election, but this is election day. This is important because it's the same thing. You see,
So-
even though both candidates were closer to 50%,
Yeah.
it's still the same shape. It's,
Yeah.
you've got more of a straight line consistency.
And you're saying that this is 2024. So San Mateo, you're saying you're believing that if there was no anomalies in San Mateo, it pretty much looked like a normal election.
Right.
Okay.
So if this is what a normal election looks like, we're going to look at Pennsylvania.
We can do shapes. We're good
Yeah.
at
This
shapes.
is
we're good at
geometry.
Shades of color, red and blue,
No, no,
and
no.
shapes.
We're not good at geometry.
okay. That's a circle.
Shape.
But what's a triangle? How many sides?
3.
Boom.
See, come on,
See?
All right,
Mark.
you're going to pass this test.
All right, go ahead.
All right. So now we're going to, all right, hold on. Now we're going to look at another place.
See, he's getting scared. You scared him.
All right. All right. The last baseline. All right. And then we're going to
Okay.
actually get into the
Oh,
manipulation.
Erie. Okay.
This is Erie County, Pennsylvania. I think this is top 5
Mhm.
density county in the
Mhm.
state. It's either the 3rd or the 5th largest county. And similar pattern. They don't have as many precincts here.
Mhm.
So the shape isn't as well defined. But you notice,
Yeah, but
generally
you
speaking,
can still see it. Yeah, yeah.
roughly a
Yeah,
straight line.
yeah.
Generally speaking, this is roughly a straight line.
It is
Right.
not a rhomboid.
Yeah.
Hmm?
No. All right. So we're going to look at election day. And here we go.
Oh.
So same application. This is Erie County. This is election day.
Wait, stop.
Hold on.
Wait,
Wait a minute.
That's not a straight line.
wait. But not only that, but okay, go ahead. You explain it before
Yeah.
you get talking.
No,
Go
there,
ahead.
so if we look at both candidates separate, because it gets a little confusing when you look at both of them, we see at lower votes cast per precinct, Harris
He's killing it.
Harris is killing it, 80, 60% or so. And then as more votes were cast in these precincts, in precincts where more votes were cast, there's no time here. Everyone seems to get a little confused saying there's a time component. There's not. We're just showing you every precinct
Oh.
where a certain amount of votes were cast or
All day.
more.
all
Hold
day.
on.
This is all the counties.
If you
Or
look
sorry,
at
this is all the
them
precincts in Erie County.
separately, it actually looks
drop that.
somewhat normal until you hit 500. And around 500, well, actually maybe a little less than
Yeah, a
500,
little less than 500.
Trump goes up
About halfway.
drastically and Harris goes down.
Ray, look, it's more like 250. If you look at the blue, at 250, everything starts to drop,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
and then
yeah.
at
yeah.
250, everything
So
starts to go up.
what
we're
Holy
seeing-
shit.
To sum this up, we're seeing that at precincts where more votes were cast, the Republican Party grew in the amount of votes they were getting consistently all across the county.
Which would make you think that maybe if this were fraud, that there was a number that triggered
If this was caused by a compromise of the tabulation
a
machines,
Potentially.
a potential compromise,
alleged hypothetical.
Thank you.
then this would support a threshold
Got it.
of votes cast, and then you begin to manipulate the votes from one candidate to the
Which
other.
would make it
if
seem
you
less
look-
human and more
You can actually see how
maybe something to do with programming or
And the
Yes,
concern
yes.
here,
Question. So in order to
Is Ken here?
Hi everyone, I'm back here. I can barely see anything because anyway, with the tabulation and with code, you have to enter in a number in order for it to trigger something like this. In order for code to take off, or is there another way to write it where you could kind of make it gradual? Do you know what I'm saying?
yes. And so that's the argument of what is the algorithm? What are we seeing? And the concern
Stay
here,
on camera. Don't look at Ken. Stay on
the
camera.
concern here is we've tried to avoid talking too much about how exactly you would write this and do this with the machines, because the data tells us the concern. And the concern is it looks like you would set a threshold, and then depending on how you do it, after that threshold is met, which seems to be almost always more than the amount of votes you would audit in a precinct or a county, then you would begin to take votes from one candidate and give them to the other. And or you would add in votes or delete votes. And it seems to be a mix. We've done additional analysis, which we'll continue to be publishing, but we originally assumed it was maybe just vote switching. We're now starting to see that there's the digital vote stuffing potentially, and also vote deletion. And there's a difference because you take a vote from one candidate, give it to the other. It's still deletion, but they get a +1. In deletion, you just get rid of it.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Did this happen on the down ballot races?
From our analysis, we are seeing the similar concerns for senatorial races and other down ballot partisan races, meaning there's a Democrat versus a Republican. We're seeing it pretty consistently across not only Pennsylvania, but in Nevada as well. And other states we've not released yet, perhaps Iowa. And we'll talk about that later.
Another really important
That was
state.
another thing too, was that the midterms, they were calling for a red wave, and it absolutely didn't happen.